There is a difference between being an advocate for someone versus being an enabler. And I want to differentiate between some different things here because I've observed a lot of things with people's behaviors over the year who will say, I'm an advocate. Maybe they're an advocate for their child, adult child, by the way, right? Not an adult child, maybe much older, in 20s, 30s even, or maybe it's a minor, someone in their a teenager, right? You get the idea. Or maybe they're an advocate for a friend, maybe another family member, etc. So there is a context here where definitely there's something to be said about being an advocate to help maybe advocate for somebody to intervene and be in there for them, to be supportive, to make sure that they're getting certain needs met or being treated fairly within a process. Maybe they're receiving services somewhere. Perhaps maybe someone in school, you're being an advocate for your son or daughter, right? With the teacher or the principal or the curriculum, making sure that, everything's on the up and up. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. What about other situations, right? Maybe somebody has been a bit bullied, or maybe they're being undermined. Maybe they're in a vulnerable situation, being taken advantage of, and they're just not equipped. They don't have the tools or maybe the insight of what to do for themselves, right? So somebody will come and intervene, be an advocate for that individual, to help that individual, right, to protect their rights or ensure their rights. You get the idea. And the thing is, this is a good thing, by the way, right? But there's a context, and how this works, as far as the boundaries with it, expectations, and then the aspect of what's needed on both ends of the equation. The person who's the advocate and the person who's being advocated for. So enabling is something different, because I hear a lot of people who like to use the word, I am this person's advocate, but that's not what's happening. They are this person's enabler more than anything. And sometimes people like to hijack the term advocate and when it's really enabling, because then they can use it kind of like a shield, right? Or almost this becomes, maybe I weaponize it, right? I can use this to jump in there and feel like I have power, right? Or just I get overly involved with someone's problems. That maybe is fulfilling some other needs, if you will. So here's the deal. If you are trying to say you're an advocate for someone, but you are not being reasonable within a process with the expectation that person, they need to be committed, be doing the things that they need to do. They need to be responsible. They need to be intentional, right? The person who's being advocated for has a responsibility. And if that person is not making commitments to do the things that are essential within a program, a process, school, being responsible, maybe having some respect, are basically taking responsibility to do stuff on their own time that they need to do. It's expected, it's required, it's part of growing up, part of being mature, being responsible. So a lot of people who are irresponsible, they're not, adhering to what's necessary within a process. They will then get said advocate to come in and hey, I'm going to tell my mother, right? My mom's going to go talk to that teacher or professor in college. Never mind the kids in college, right? It's not high school no more. I'm going to get my mom or dad to go talk to the professor at college. Or maybe I'm going to have them come talk to the boss at work. I mean, you're 19, 20, 23 years old and your dad or mom are coming to talk to the boss at work or the manager, right? So these situations are where I have seen that it's way out of balance. It's all in the sense of basically trying to jump in and rescue a person. Maybe I'm using an example of someone's adult child. You're going to rescue them and you're going to fix that situation because my kid cannot fail. They don't fail. So the kid is an extension of the parent's ego. They personalize it, right? They take it personal. They get in there and they'll start meddling and they'll start calling, I don't know, they'll call the freaking governor, they'll call the higher up or whoever, because they're just not going to accept any answer that's not what they want to hear. And don't you tell them that their son or daughter, hey, they have to follow rules and there needs to be some accountability, right? Because I've seen this happen in certain scenarios. So in this situation, this is not advocating, this is enabling. It's not teaching any responsibility, definitely not helping this individual to ever become an adult. What you need is to have healthy boundaries with an individual as an advocate, and part of that is the balance. to point out if it's a child who's an adult, right? Hey, look, if you're going to be receiving, the benefit of this situation, these are the things that you need to do. And if you're not doing them, it's what it is. That's going to be on you. It's not the professor's fault. It's not your boss's fault. It's not this program's fault that you're in. So this can be a bit of entitlement. Maybe a parent hires a bunch of attorneys and we're going to go sue these people, right? Anything except maybe perhaps my son or daughter, maybe they learn a lesson. Imagine that. Instead of trying to sue people, maybe they learn a lesson, which is a valuable one in life, right? That we do need to have a reasonable amount of commitment and responsibility on both ends of the equation. Because if we're just jumping in there to bail people out to where they, in your mind, can never fail because you're viewing them as an extension of yourself, or you're afraid of what people will think, you're personalizing it. So if you can't ever let somebody experience a consequence for their actions, or if there's never an expectation that they have a requirement on their part to be intentional, to do certain things. So if you're not promoting that and you're not allowing that to happen for an individual, you're not really an advocate. You're not an advocate at all. You're a bit codependent, you are enabling, and if anything, you are not preparing that person for life. So these are my 2 cents. I can go all day on this topic. That sometimes I just have to raise an eyebrow when I hear someone call themselves an advocate, when if you just look at the behavior, it's clearly it's enabling and a bit of codependency going on with an individual. Jumping in there, over-involved with their problems, no expectation the person can solve a problem themselves or be responsible, thinking that if you don't do it, it'll never happen because they'll never do it perhaps. Well, perhaps they've learned to never have to do anything because you've taught them, you jump in there and you fix it. That's right. Never mind, I'm a grown adult. I'll just tell my parents, right, to go talk to the person or fix the problem for me because that's how it works. That's what I've learned, right? I don't need to be intentional. So this is not an advocate. An advocate promotes certain values that in the long run empower somebody, that teaches something. Because the goal is, as an advocate, you don't want a person to have to need you all the time forever, for everything. That's not advocacy, that's codependency and enabling. They always need you in that context, and that's part of the problem, right? How this goes on both ways for needs being fulfilled. So as an advocate, when I advocate for someone, yes, there may be some interventions where I jump in there and I'm going to go to bat for somebody. I'm going to stick up for them. I'm going to look at the facts. I'm going to advocate for their rights. What can I do to help this be the best situation possible? But at the same time, I will be honest with the individual I'm advocating for as far as what their part in this is, what they need to be doing, what can be done differently. I teach them too. I want them to learn to be their own advocate. Empowerment, right? So you get the idea. There's a big difference between being an advocate versus an enabler. I hope everybody has a good day. Thank you.